and therefore I don't have to buy a car for the convenience because there's a convenient network out there that's affordable that can take me places. Is that what? That's kind of what we're talking about, right?
Hang on, I want to jump in, right? So I want to reason this up from first principles because we're just talking about cars. But why do we even need a car? I mean, just recently, cars didn't even exist, right? We had horses or people just walked for a lot of time. So, I mean, now it's interesting because with technology, do we really need to drive to work? Because most people just now work out of their homes, right?
Wait, most people? Think about that. Most people work out of their homes? You are college educated, you work in tech, and you've got enough money to afford the setup. Most people? I want you to be realistic.
Isn't everybody like me, pretty much, right? I mean,
no, you are the weird exception here. So
I'm the weird one. Okay. Well,
no,
okay then.
When it comes to professional jobs, yes, a lot of people can work remote. But if you are in a service industry job where you're interacting with people, there's no way you're going to be able to do that remotely the way we operate today.
Okay. So let's I want to abstract this out because we're just on cars, right? So basically, a car is to get from the place where we sleep to where we work, right? I mean, and we run errands with it, and we do other things like that.
A to B. Don't worry about where you work or sleep, right? Because that's
okay.
You can use it for a variety of reasons. Travel and
okay, so we go. So I went to Europe a long time ago, and there was not as many cars in little towns in Europe. It's like what happened is there was like these little town center things, and so pretty much for the most part everything you needed was within walking distance, and there was a town square, and everybody lived around it, and most of the time people just walked or used bicycles actually, and I didn't see as many cars as there are here. So I know we use the example of LA, but I mean, LA is not, what is that?
Population density.
Okay, population density. So LA, I would consider that to be very population dense, but not as dense as New York.
LA is not population dense compared to any major city.
Well, compared to Alma, Arkansas, it's very population dense, actually. I'm out in the middle of nowhere.
Are you willing to walk everywhere in Alma, Arkansas?
No. In fact, it's like on the scores, it's very unwalkable. Everybody's got cars, our tractors here, right?
Yeah, so you got your answer right there. The United States is hundreds of times bigger than most of those European countries and less population dense. The whole car culture we have as we moved west, that is a huge part of our culture. So aside from our personal identity, it is, for a long time, it's been the way we've had to live. Now,
okay, so let's
make a change. Yeah.
Let's talk about New York. That's population dense.
Yes.
And there's a plenty of cars there. What's that? Yeah, most people don't own cars, right? They take taxis, they walk, they do whatever, right?
They got a public transport system that covers most of the area. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what's my point? So finish my point for me, because I just forgot where I was going.
You were questioning whether we needed cars.
In the first place. It's because, I mean, granted, this is a very U.S. specific problem, but other countries deal with it too. But U.S., it's very heavily car culture, designed into our culture because of the infrastructure, because of how how real estate established our cities and the evolution of things over time. And what I'm beginning to look at is, again, how technology will start to disrupt the impact of society, right? The Industrial Revolution is what created the railroads. And the railroads started this whole other process that started to move everything else in our society. Because before that, everybody was farmers and we didn't have the need for all these things, the cars. Yeah. So where do these things move as big shifts in technology moves is what ultimately we're looking at. And one of the big shifts I see happening right now is with cars, specifically because of how AI and the advancement of that piece of technology is going to change that our physical space. And that's going to start to change how people utilize cars. And if you look at, it's always great to look at what young people are doing, right? The younger generation, what are they doing right now? Do they want to drive a car? Do they even care about their cars the way the older generations do? And the answer to that majority is no. They actually don't care about it as much.
Tony, hang on. I want to pin you down for a second because this is the second time on the podcast. So define what is the problem? What's the problem that we're talking about?
So the problem, if we're going to talk about problem solving, there's multiple problems, but one of them is how's our physical land set up right now, and how is it serving the population, and how's that impacting our society here in the U.S. and in other countries, but again, specifically in the U.S., with our current infrastructure and the way that we live our lives.
So then let's break it down, because I need an example, actually, because I'm not smart enough to think theoretical about this stuff. So you're some dude or have family in a house, and you need to have some sort of shelter to protect against the heat and the rain and all this other sort of stuff, and to be somewhat safe, something you can lock up so people can't just easily walk in and get your stuff. And then you need to go back and forth from work. You typically have work, right? Because most of the time we started with farms, so the work was right there, actually. But now we have to drive some location. We have to drive to get our food. We have to drive, where before on the farm, it's like you ate what you grew for the most part. So you didn't need to move around as much.
Let's go back to first principles real quick. You don't have to drive, you have to get there.
Driving
is the solution. So
driving is a mechanism, right? Exactly. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. So you need to physically. So basically, then the problem in my mind is to find, if we could more generalize it, is the fact that you need to cover a bigger distance to get your basic needs met, right?
Well, so I would take a step back and say, how do other places solve it? They have mass transit, they walk. And how can they walk? Well, then we go into the thing, because they're closer. I would say as we moved west, the cheap land at the time allowed for a decrease in population density, because we still have this view that the more land you have, the richer you are, right? That probably goes back to farming days, or royalty even, because it used to be the king owned all the land and you farmed as a serf. So yeah. I wouldn't surprise me if land ownership is still heavily tied in our minds to wealth. So as we moved west and we could get land cheap or free, we got as much as we could.
Yeah, right.
And that laid the groundwork for architecture and city planning and all that sort of thing.
Why do they want to live in these condensed areas? Is that because they're closer to resources? Is that the principal reason?
It saves time.
Because it's closer. The resources is closer.
I'm going to propose the idea it saves time. I don't have to bake my own bread. I go to the baker. And it only takes me 10 minutes to go to the bakery, as opposed to 2 hours or 3 hours to make bread. I don't need to, So yes, it's convenience, but it's all about saving time, saving money, right? At the end of the day.